Hey, for anyone who wants to know how I got this game to look like this, I will go over what I'm using, what kind of settings I've got, and that kind of thing. You'll have to find some of this stuff yourself, but basically I'm using an emulator called DuckStation, though I am using an older version of it, because the current version does not support the HD texture mod, it just crashes the emulator. And I am using an HD texture mod for this game specifically because, normally the backgrounds would look a lot more pixely and everything. When you find that, you basically unzip the two folders, you put them in the path of Documents, DuckStation, Textures, and there you go. Settings-wise, aside from the fact that I have an older version, let's just look over everything and see what I have set up so you can change whatever you want. A lot of this stuff. Some of this stuff I didn't really change. A bunch of these settings I think are pretty typical. So far, at least. Oh yeah, for hotkeys, I would recommend graphics. Toggle PGXP, I would recommend mapping this to something. I'll explain that in a bit. Also, memory card settings, I would strongly recommend setting to shared between all games. You can run into some problems otherwise with certain games. Display settings, here's where some important things are. I use Vulkan for the renderer. That helps with some things. Otherwise, these are just kind of the general settings I have. I have the aspect ratio and crop set the way they are for a reason, I think, but I don't remember the exact reason. Linear upscaling is kind of a personal choice. Enhancement settings, here's some other really important stuff. Also, just for the sake of it, to show what difference this makes. I have internal resolution set to 5 times. Here's what it looks like at 1 times. This is what it would look like without enhancement, basically, like if you ran it on the console. You can see the textures kind of reverted to what they were like originally, too. That upscaling makes a big difference. Otherwise, texture filtering is more of a personal choice. I use that. I like scaled dithering. This one. I must have checked this for a reason, but I don't know what it is, so careful with that one since it's not a recommended setting, I guess. Obviously, you want to disable interlacing. Personal choice, really, on this one, but I tried the chroma smoothing things that's supposed to help FMVs. This is another big one, the geometry correction stuff. I checked these specific ones for a reason. I basically experimented with what worked. Note that this works differently with different games. Different games need different settings in here. Some games may just not use these settings, like any of these settings, well at all. I know Silent Hill has a specific cutscene that like always crashes if you have geometry correction turned on. That's why I say have a hotkey, so you can just disable it at any time. The first Parasite Eve game had a weird quirk where the world map during the daytime would get all super messed up if you had geometry correction on, but the rest of the game it makes look good. As for Parasite Eve 2, if I turn it off, I'll just use the check mark here since I don't have a hotkey mapped to something easy right now. You can see what difference that makes. The model's a little screwy, and parts of it, in fact, are even just like not rendering. And you turn it on, it gets a lot less wiggly, and everything is rendering. There's no missing, there's nothing missing that should be there. But do note that there are a couple glitches I ran into with this in this game. There is a cutscene at the Acropolis Tower where Aya's feet just don't render in for that cutscene with the geometry correction on. And there's a cutscene in Dryfield when you're having an encounter with this dude in a building where Aya's entire body pretty much just did not render in. And I think turning off geometry correction probably would have fixed that, because it did fix the feet issue when I was testing that. So yeah, have a hotkey so you can just turn it off if things are getting weird, but most of the game looks better with it on and with these specific settings. Again, you may need to check or uncheck different things for different games. I have this post-processing shader. I have it set the specific way for a reason. Basically, the edge strength is at 0 because I'm not using the edge strength. Like this can try to add kind of like a cell shaded look. I just have that disabled, but I have it on specifically for the I think the use YUV Luma setting? Yes. I set this to 1, and that's the whole reason I'm using this filter. Nothing else matters. I used, it's again a personal choice, but here, let me show you if I turn that off. This is what the colors look like. And if I turn it back on, I kind of like it. I think this is closer to accurate to how it looked on a CRT back in the day, color-wise, I think. Kind of a case-by-case basis where some games may actually look worse with the different colors, but I think a lot of games actually look better. You may disagree, so, you know, personal choice, but just know that that's a thing you can add, and I would set it up this way. I don't think I did anything in the audio settings. Advanced settings, there are a couple things you need to do with this. Enable VRAM write texture replacement needs to be checked if you're going to use the HD texture mod. And also you want preload texture replacements checked. That way it'll just preload all the textures. When you boot up the game, it'll take longer to load when you first start the game, but then it'll be smoother when you're playing it that way. So, that should do it. That's pretty much all the settings, so yeah, have fun.